Hello, everybody. Welcome to my Let's Talk Stress series. This is the third that we're doing today. And today I have got the lovely Alessandro Ferullo, hopefully I said that nicely, who's going to talk to us about him and his stress, and also about the work that he does, which helps other people who are suffering from stress. So, Alessandro, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I'm Italian, living in the UK. I was born in Indonesia, so I've traveled around the world quite a lot. And I set up my company Flowing Health about 25 years ago. And at that time, I wasn't sure why I chose this name, but then I realized that, we are all sort of energy beings. And when I came across this practice called Qi Gong, I realized, to be really healthy, energy has to flow. Things have to flow in life for us to be, happy, joyful, healthy. So I've been studying this for, about 30 years, and I love sharing this with other people, especially during these stressful times that we're all going through at the moment.
So I've actually done Qigong and Tai Chi a little bit, and I'm not quite sure what the difference is because they were both far apart, and I just don't know what the difference is. So would you like to explain to people a little bit?
Yeah. More people seem to know Tai Chi because we see photos or videos of people in the parks, doing these nice, gentle, simple movements. And but Qigong is actually older than Tai Chi, and maybe is 3,000 to 4,000 years old. And Tai Chi is almost like a structured form of Qigong. So it's certain movements that you follow in a certain sequence. Qigong tends to be a bit more spontaneous, but Qi is energy, Gong is practice. So Tai Chi is a form of Qigong in a way, but Tai means great, Qi means energy. And most Tai Chi forms, I would say, probably came out of somebody practicing Qigong spontaneously, and then they created a form, gave it a nice name, and people like to follow something structured. Qigong tends to be more focused on self-healing and rebalancing the energy system without having a rigid form.
Okay, so that's why I would have got it slightly mixed up then. I heard an anecdote from a friend of mine actually who said she was at the supermarket queue. You know how long the queues are outside now to get in, and she said it was lovely that somebody was doing their qigong in the queue. I thought that was brilliant. Instead of just standing there aimlessly for half an hour or however long it is,
Yeah.
she was actually using that time productively. Okay, and what are the kind of things that stress you out, Alessandro?
Um, Ironically, I'd say the things that stresses me out the most is members of my family, and
Oh, I don't think
even
that's ironically. I think probably most people would say the same.
yeah, and I'll share one of the tips later on. But for example, when there is conflict, particularly among people, we are all energy beings. So sometimes people know how to get to us, say certain things that kind of seem to undermine us. And I kind of come back to some of my Qigong techniques, simple things like breathing, being grounded, actually not reacting, but observing, kind of being present and aware, and then choosing whether to react or not. I think in the past, I used to react quite spontaneously. So even though these things stress me out, I now can catch myself most of the time. And there's therefore a different outcome, because everything's a reflection of how we are ourselves. So if my energy is, well, grounded, balanced, present, the other person also picks it up. They don't feel confronted.
It sounds slightly mindfulness-like, doesn't it? Kind of just being really present in the moment. Does
Yeah.
it share some principles with mindfulness, do you think?
Definitely. I mean, mindfulness is a quite a modern-y word that people use, and it's now proven to be a science, and it's great. It's taught in schools, and it's very popular. But actually, the Buddhists have been doing mindfulness for 2,000 years or more. So it's very similar. And I think one of the main differences is with Qigong is that we connect to the universal energy around us, the Qi, and a lot of it is about grounding the energy. So sometimes in mindfulness, it tends to work a lot around the mind and the body, but there isn't such a connection with the earth element, which is yin, and heaven, which is yang. And in Qigong, we're rebalancing the body through connecting with the energy beyond our own rather than going into ourselves, which is very helpful. And mindfulness is an amazing practice. But I would say it's like mindfulness maybe with movement. Yeah, I think you could call it a kind of mindfulness practice. But
yeah, it incorporates some of the principles.
Yeah,
yeah.
principle.
Okay.
Yeah.
So would you like to share with us a simple technique that might help people when they're
Yeah.
feeling stressed?
Yes, I mean, one of the things I always go to, I think mindfulness does as well, is that we can, and one of the few things we can control is our breathing. So there's many different breathing techniques for Qi Gong, to really relax the body, rest the internal organs. But one of the simplest ones anyone can do at any time, eyes open, closed, is that you just imagine that every cell of the body is breathing, that the body is being breathed by the universe. So it's like just a simple idea, rather than thinking we have to breathe here or anywhere else. If the body is being breathed, we can go into a very deep state. Sometimes they call it like pulse breathing. It's a longevity practice. So when you really settle the whole body and allow the body to be breathed, as I'm talking to you, I can feel you're beginning to relax my internal organs. The whole body is going into a deeper state. Doesn't mean I'm going into meditation, but I'm just very aware and relaxed. So when something happens around me, if I hear a loud sound or the phone goes off, I'm not bothered by it because I'm in a deep centered state just through switching the way I breathe. And if I'm with my daughter, for example, to create a lot of space between us, no judgment, space around her, I go into this deep breathing, and then the energy is contained, and also the other person has more space, and they don't feel that I'm reacting to what they're saying. And I think it's a very useful thing, especially in the office environment. In meetings, I've used this a lot when meetings aren't going well. I just go into my breathing, observe, and somehow, we can cope with everything much better when our breathing is efficient. And just to add one thing, there's something that keeps us alive in life. It's not food or air, otherwise we could live forever, but it is what the Chinese call the Qi, or energy. So the universe is kind of keeping us alive, enabling us, and the universe is actually enabling us to breathe as well. And sometimes we think, our ego thinks, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. When you let go, you notice that actually everything can be much more effortless. So I think breathing, taking control of how we breathe. If we're tense, we're waiting for a train, you just go into a deeper state of breathing. The train comes sooner, I would say.
So can you explain a little bit more that you are being breathed? Because that might be a bit confusing for people.
Okay. So if I imagine that every cell is breathing, so every cell is breathing with the air around me, and the next phase of that is the air around me is enabling me to breathe. It's like a bellows. So I'm kind of closing and opening. I'm being closed and opened by the energy or the air or God or whatever we call it. I'm being enabled to breathe rather than me thinking, I better breathe. Because sometimes when we get tense, we hold the breath. And then suddenly we think, I've got to breathe. And we often breathe in the wrong way. And as adults, we tend to breathe very high.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if the whole body initially, imagine every cell is exchanging air with the air around us, is step one. That's really beneficial. Step two is even let go of that idea and just notice how there's no effort in the breathing and we are almost being breathed. And that's it's a very Qigong-y principle. I'm in the universe is in me. I'm part of the universe. The universe is part of me. So there's no separation, and many health issues come and stress because we see ourselves as separate from other people, from the energy around us. And often that's the ego which causes a lot of problems.
Yeah, I see it a lot. I mean, the problems that we're experiencing in society at the moment, that's about a feeling of separation, isn't it? Definitely. So so that's a really helpful explanation. Thank you. Do you have a book, sorry, Alessandro, that you can recommend that you found really helpful or enlightening,
Yeah.
in your life?
Before I started Qigong, I bought this book. It's called the Dao De Jing, and by Lao Tzu. It's about 2,500 years old, this book. And I used to read a chapter every evening before going to sleep, and I had no idea what it was about. But I'd sleep quite well, you know. Then I started Qigong, energy work, and, you know, continued reading. And then I began understanding everything. And I would say 82 or 83 short chapters. You know, if we lived our life by just one of these simple chapters, we would have the most amazing life. So it's kind of ancient wisdom about how we live in this world, how to relate to the universe, to other people, you know, how to live a life of, you know, joy. And Te is virtue, Dao is the way, Te is virtue. So it's like a virtuous life aligned with whether it's God, the universe, you know, in harmony, how to live a healthy life in harmony. And I think you know, it's the second most translated book in the world after the Bible.
Is
And
it
most
really?
people, yeah, most people never heard of it. So I've got about 20 different versions because there's lots of different translations. So I would say whoever, you know, is interested, you know, have a look inside it to see if it speaks to you.
Well, maybe send me the actual book, that one, and I
Yeah.
shall put it in the link. And I don't know how to say it. Lao Tzu, is that how you say it?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he's often quoted. I use some of his quotes sometimes.
Yeah.
So I didn't know it was so old, the stuff that
Yeah.
he's been writing. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's really helpful. Thank you so much. And I think you actually run classes online now because of what's going on.
I do. Online, I mean, my website, you might mention it on there, is flowinghealth.uk.
Yeah.
And if people look, there's online one-to-one sessions or group sessions. And at the moment, because of the situation, I'm offering like 10 free half-hour Qigong sessions for people who are maybe going through some difficulties to help with how to possibly resolve. So, you know, I'd be very happy.
That's very kind. I'll put that website on the link there.
Yeah.
So thank you very much indeed.
And can I
sorry, go on.
one thing, I've contributed things to do. One thing to avoid when we wake up, because what most people do, especially younger people, when they wake up, is they check their mobile phone first thing.
I know, nightmare.
What I would say, whatever you do in the morning, whatever practice, even if it's, you know, having breakfast or doing some journaling or sit in stillness or gratitude for a while, do it before we check our phones. Because the minute we check the phone, that's the stress starting. You know, and I'd say if we get in control of our own emotions and energy first thing, then you check your phone. That could reduce stress massively for everyone.
I think there's so much in that actually, and people actually go to sleep with their phones. They use it as their alarm system as well. There's so much wrong with that. So, you know, when I'm working with clients on their stress, that's often something that I ask them to do a lot less of, because you can see if you go out to dinner with people, they're just on the phones the whole time. Maybe I'm just not interested in company. I don't know. But you're probably true. I'm not interested in company. I'm offended. But you know, you see them do it.
Yeah,
it's just shocking, and
it's
because they feel, because it's pinged at them, they need to know what it says.
Yeah, and it's easy to do. Turn off the notifications. You'll still get them, but just turn off the sounds, because the sounds creates the stress by itself. You know, you need to,
and it's like Pavlov's dog. People are just kind of automatically, and then when it doesn't happen, they're looking at it to say, "Why hasn't it happened? Does it happen? No, it hasn't happened. What does that mean? Maybe they're not speaking to me." It just goes into a whole spiral of negativity, doesn't it? So that's great. So not doing your phone first thing in the morning, doing this breathing exercise that hold on, what is it? The universe breathes you is the big tip, and I shall share with people the book.
Thank you very much.
That's lovely. Really nice talking to you, Alessandro. Take care. Cheerio. Bye bye. I can never find the button. Here it is.